So Kirsten Hill is the program manager for Smithsonian Bird Friendly, the gold standard in biodiversity friendly coffee. She is a conservationist at heart and an educator by training with over 15 years of experience working to engage audiences in the protection of wildlife and wild places. As the Bird Friendly program manager, Kirsten works alongside coffee roasters, importers, and retailers to increase consumer awareness and support for bird-friendly certified coffee, building a stronger bird-friendly community. So thank you, Kirsten. If any attendees have questions, please leave them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. With that, I'll turn it over to Kirsten. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Zach, and thank you everyone for logging in today to learn a bit more about Smithsonian bird-friendly certified coffee. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak with you all. I always love doing talks for local Audubon chapters and just kind of listening into all the excitement that you all have for the birds that you see in your backyard and to kind of share in that enthusiasm with you. So just to get us started, as Zach said, my name is Kirsten Hill. I'm the program manager for Smithsonian Bird Friendly. And I'd love to know just as we kind of get started, how familiar folks are on the spectrum of bird friendly. So is this something that maybe you're just hearing about for the first time? It sounds like from what Zach had said that you're already, many of you might already be drinking a bird friendly certified coffee, or maybe you consider yourself a bird friendly expert. So feel free to either use use the chat to tell me a little bit more about where you're coming from today in your bird friendly journey, just so we have an idea of kind of how that's going to unfold. So as we get started, I'll look for those responses to kind of come in from folks. And I'll tell you a little bit more about where we're coming from, where I'm coming from. So we at the Smithsonian Bird Friendly Program are part of the Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center. Oh, there's our chat popping up there. Excellent. So we are part of the Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center, which is part of the Smithsonian Institution, the world's largest museum and research complex. Our center itself was founded in 1991, and the Bird Friendly program was founded in 2000. So we're celebrating our 25th anniversary this year, which is really exciting. Our Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center sits within the National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute. So if you've ever had the chance to visit Washington, D.C. and gone to the National Zoo, that's kind of our home campus there. And the Migratory Bird Center's mission is the dedication to understanding, conserving, and championing the grand phenomenon of bird migration. It's home to many different research projects, as well as the Bird Friendly Certification Program. So I know you all probably don't ask yourself this question, but we do get it asked quite a bit from the general populace. But the answer is the question is, why birds? Why focus on birds in particular? And we really like this quote from former National Zoo board member and tropical conservation biologist Thomas Lovejoy, which is, if you take care of birds, you take care of most of the big environmental problems in the world. So birds are a really great indicator species, as I'm sure you all know. If bird populations are doing really well, it's the sign of a healthy and flourishing ecosystem. Conversely, if bird populations aren't doing great, it's a sign of often a lot of bigger environmental issues that are at play. And that kind of segues us into the state of birds today. So as I'm sure many of you have heard, the study that came out in 2019, the loss of approximately 3 billion birds since the 1970s, is a remarkable study that came out and really just kind of spurred a lot of people to start to think about what's going on with birds. And migratory birds in particular are kind of at the crux of this, because 2.5 of those 2.9 billion birds that disappeared were migratory species. So to put it into other contexts, as we're looking at 2 in 5 Baltimore Orioles and an overall population loss of almost 30%, which is incredibly remarkable. So when we think about what's going on with migratory birds in particular, they're a difficult group of animals to protect because they spend time in so many different regions throughout the year. So this time of year, birds are overwintering in tropical regions in Central and South America in the Americas flyway, and then they're going to be migrating back up to us in North America in the spring. They'll breed over the summer before they complete the annual cycle, returning south in the fall. So when we think about this through the lens of bird conservation, we look at a lot of different threats depending upon where birds are in their annual cycle. So during breeding season, we're seeing threats from habitat loss and habitat degradation, things like feral cats, invasive plants, pesticides, and then expansion both in the urban and suburban area, and then agricultural as well. During the overwintering season, it's still habitat loss, still looking at agricultural, urban, and expansion, but then also other types of infrastructure and things like that, and then habitat degradation as well. Then during the migration cycle, we're looking at window strikes, light pollution, wind turbines, many of the things that you all were kind of talking about, on the call before the talk started. So these are things, it's important for us to understand these threats and the drivers behind them to try to figure out what all is going on. So when we take a look at a specific issue, that habitat loss, which we know is pervasive when we think about the world of conservation and then migratory species in particular for birds, a significant driver of this habitat loss is unfortunately agriculture. So the map here shows forest loss from about 2000 to 2017. And the pink areas that you're seeing there is where the forest was lost. So this is something that's been impacting wildlife for long before, that 2000 marker that started. And so if we want to kind of hop in a little pretend time machine with me here, we can go back to the 1970s, even before, or excuse me, the 1980s, I should say, even before the creation of the Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center. We look at some of the folks that founded it. So the gentleman you see pictured here is Russ Greenberg. He is the founding director of the Migratory Bird Center and one of the folks that helped establish the Bird Friendly Coffee program along with Dr. Robert Rice. So even before SMBC came around, Greenberg and other ornithologists were observing migratory bird overwintering grounds, and they were taking note of the species that were present and which habitats they were using during that time. And what Greenberg and others noticed was that the areas on coffee farms that retained shade over the coffee crop were a high value habitat for migratory birds. So they were preserving and maintaining a lot of space for birds in an environment where it might otherwise be lost for coffee cultivation. And this is important because when you take a look at the areas in which coffee is grown and the areas in which there are biodiversity hotspots, there's a whole heck of a lot of overlap. So the orange that you see here, these are all biodiversity hotspots globally, kind of right along that belt, that equatorial belt in the center of the globe. Our yellow regions, a lot of that overlap here is coffee growing, and then we have cocoa growing regions as well, tip of the hand a little bit to our second crop type that we've been working on within the Migratory Bird Center. So coffee is an incredibly pervasive commodity. So it's cultivated on over 27 million acres of land worldwide and is actually the second most traded commodity worldwide, just behind oil. So there's a lot of coffee that's grown, and there's a lot of coffee that moves and fuels many of our mornings, afternoons, and evenings, depending upon what you've got going on in your life. And historically, coffee was grown entirely in the shade. So up until the 1970s, coffee was exclusively an agroforestry plot or an agroforestry crop, which means that it was embedded in the understory of the forest without doing a lot of tree removal and things like that. But in the 1970s, which if you think back to our 3 billion bird study, is an important date and time frame to remember, farmers started to remove trees from their environment, transitioning to sun-grown monoculture, which resulted in higher yields for them and also helped them battle a pretty pesky fungal disease called coffee rust. And unfortunately, that trend picked up as farmers realized that they could get more yields, more coffee coming per acre of land that they had, and we lost a lot of habitat in that process. So today, about 3/4 of the world's coffee is farmed using practices that leave no space for birds, or worse, are actively destroying forest habitat. And it's a problem for birds, it's a problem for biodiversity, because when we compare sun-grown monoculture, so an area in which almost all of the native habitat has been eliminated, to agroforestry systems grown under the shade, it's pretty easy to see why shade-grown coffee farms support significantly more bird species than the sun-grown alternative. So in order to protect birds, what our researchers at the Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center found was that we need to protect this high-quality shade and forest on coffee farms. And that is why the Bird Friendly program was established. So bird friendly is a third-party certification that was created by Smithsonian scientists to protect wildlife habitat on coffee farms. We are scientists who set out to conserve migratory birds and sort of stumbled into the world of coffee and certifications. So we occupy a very unique space within the coffee world. But in simplest terms, bird-friendly coffee comes from farms that provide good forest-like habitat for birds and wildlife. We do consider ourselves to be the gold standard in biodiversity friendly coffee, holding ourselves to a higher standard than any other certification that's currently on the market for things like biodiversity protection and conservation on land, lack of deforestation, organic practices, and product purity, which means that every bean in a bag or a cup of bird friendly certified coffee is coming from these farms that are achieving the standard for bird friendly certification. So a little bit about how our program works and what the supply chain looks like for us. So we've got a number of different parties that operate within our bird-friendly sphere. So it actually starts with the certifier. So as an independent certification, what we do is we train groups of certifiers, so auditors that actually go out and perform inspections on farms that are looking to receive bird-friendly certification. Certifiers receive a free training from Smithsonian on what the bird-friendly standard is, how to evaluate it, and how to issue a certification decision. We make sure that we keep that training totally free for folks so that the costs remain as low as possible for certification to be achieved. Then what happens is certifiers go out to these farms and they perform inspections to determine if criteria are met. We have both mandatory criteria and then recommended criteria, which we'll get to in just a little bit about what that looks like. And when farms can prove that they meet all criteria, both on farm and then in post-harvest processing and handling as well, they receive certification, which is valid for a period of 3 years. That allows them to trade their coffee as bird friendly during that period through our licensed supply chain of importers, of which we have a little over 2 dozen now in our program, who then sell on to coffee roasters, of which we have over 100 roasters in our program as of earlier this year. And in turn, those coffee roasters, they roast and sell delicious bird-friendly certified coffee to the millions of consumers each year. So we, through our program, protect over 34,000 acres of land in 14 different countries worldwide through both our coffee and our cocoa certification, which just launched a few years ago, and we're kind of getting ready to roll out in a bigger space in the next few months here. And together, the folks who are growing coffee in our program produce over 3 million pounds of coffee each year. So that's a little bit about how our supply chain works. Now, onto our certification pathways. So what does it take? What does it mean for a farm to be bird-friendly certified? What metrics do we look at? So the prerequisite for becoming bird-friendly is to have organic certification in place. So when a farmer approaches us and they ask, hey, I want to become bird-friendly certified, what does that mean? What do I have to do? The very first question that we ask them is, do you already hold an organic certification? And if they don't, then they need to become organic certified, or they need to go through what's called a participatory guarantee system, where they have dedicated buyers who can verify the organic practices on our land. That's critically important for us because of the role that pesticides play in bird conservation. If we can eliminate pesticides, it's a healthier space for birds and for the food sources that they depend upon. So once that organic marker is checked, then the other mandatory criteria that we look for are zero deforestation for a period of at least 10 years. So that means no removal of trees, no deforesting of land on the coffee growing plot or on the land that the farm owns. So that's critically important because we know that forests are such an important part of the ecosystem and of the overall health of the wildlife that depends upon it. So no deforestation for a period of at least 10 years, no conversion from forest to agricultural land. And then lastly, we look for biodiversity conservation through wildlife protection and habitat conservation. And that can happen through either the agroforestry pathway or, as of earlier this year, the forest conservation pathway. So I'll tell you a little bit more about what those two pathways look like. So for agroforestry, that's coffee that's grown under the shade of native trees, as we sort of described just a few minutes ago. So the things that we look for agroforestry include tree diversity. So we want to see at least 10 species per hectare of land. Having lots of diverse trees creates a healthier ecosystem with more bugs that can thrive on those trees, more options for birds to live and have a healthy life while they're in their overwintering period there. The other really important thing is that 60% of all the trees on the land have to be native. So we want to see a majority of that. And again, that goes back to the quality almost of the food source that the birds are going to receive when the trees are native. It's kind of the equivalent of, eating a nice, healthy, robust salad for lunch or eating a bag of Doritos for your non-native trees, which might not have as nutritionally robust insects that are living on them or other food sources that are there. We also look at shade cover, really important there. We want to have an average of at least 40% shade cover. So what that means, if you can picture it, you're walking on a bird-friendly farm, you take a look up, straight up, and then 40% of the canopy that you see is going to be blocked out by leaves. That's what we want to see for 40% shade cover. So a nice, cool environment, and that shade that is critically important for the agroforestry systems. We also want to see a minimum tree height of at least 12 meters. So nice, tall trees. We want to make sure that's not just sort of like smaller trees that have just been planted. We want to see zero deforestation again, no conversion to agriculture in the last 10 years. Organic certification again is that prerequisite, and then no bird hunting. So it has to be bird conservation happening on the land as well. So that's the agroforestry pathway and what that looks like. We also have a series of best practices. So these are the recommended criteria for any farm that wants to receive certification. And what we look for there are canopy layers. So this is the coffee bush that you're seeing on the very bottom. And then you can see we've got different strata, different layers. So we've got some smaller trees here. And then as you creep up, you've got another layer of canopy. And then even above this image is kind of that upper canopy level. So having those canopy layers is a healthier environment for birds. So that's one of those things that we recommend seeing is at least 3 layers of canopy and structural diversity as well. So stumps and dry branches, we want whenever possible for these things to be maintained on the land. That gives lots of good hiding spaces for birds and for the insects that they depend upon. We also want to see soil cover. So we don't want to see things that have been totally cleared out. Keeping the leaf litters and cover over the soil again creates a healthier environment. If there are epiphytes, so ferns and bromeliads, we want them to be retained on the land. We don't want them to be cultivated. And then if there is any sort of creek or river there, we want to see a riparian buffer. So we want to see something that's going to have a bit of space between where the coffee crop ends and then where the river or creekside begins. That helps prevent things like runoff and allows, all these plants are kind of catching, a lot of the soils and things like that before they're running off into the water system, which again creates a healthier ecosystem. More or less, we want the farm to be as untouched as possible. So we want to keep it looking more like a forest than a farm. Now, onto our second pathway, our forest conservation criteria. So this is a new aspect of our program that was kind of just finalized at the end of 2024. And it was created to protect forest-dependent species that are most at risk of extinction. So our research showed that while agroforestry systems are incredibly beneficial to birds, particularly generalists and migratory species, not all birds actually use these systems. So some birds do require complex primary or secondary forests in order to thrive. So examples of that include animals like the resplendent quetzal, three-wattled bellbird, and species of toucans such as the emerald toucanet and chestnut mandible toucan. These animals require untouched, undisturbed forests. They won't use that agroforestry system. So what we did was create a secondary pathway that increases the conservation benefits of the bird-friendly program by protecting the places that birds use most and opens the door to certification to farmers who might not qualify under the agroforestry standard, but are still steadfastly dedicated to protecting forest habitat on their land. Now, intact forests, we know are best for biodiversity and the planet, and so that's why we created this additional pathway to our certification. So things that we look for under the forest conservation criteria include a minimum of 40% conserved forest. So a farmer can only dedicate 60% of the land that they own to agriculture, to coffee growing. And then that remaining 40% at least has to be conserved forest with no plan to convert it to agriculture, and it'll kind of remain forest for as long as the certification is active. So that long-term plan for conservation is important. We also want to see no resource extraction. So you're not going in there and harvesting timber or anything else from there, certainly not harvesting any birds. So you want to keep that forest as untouched forest, and nothing, nothing that you're taking from it as part of the certification criteria. We also want the forest landscape to be within 2 kilometers of the farm, so having it be very close to where the growing area is. And then farmers have to be able to document ownership and control over that land. So again, for this, we're looking at zero deforestation and organic. The coffee or cocoa still has to be certified as organic, even though we have this kind of untouched forested area. And then within the forest itself, we want to see strong tree diversity. So at least 70 species per hectare, where at least 60% of all of the trees are native. So this is kind of a new pathway. Right now, we only have farms, cocoa farms that are certified under the standard, but it's something that we're really excited to roll out to really increase the conservation benefit of our program. And just one more thing on the tree diversity aspect. In Latin America, tree diversity for species of hectare is much higher, but this is kind of our minimum threshold of that 70%. So we'll pause for another quick poll. How many bird species do you all think benefit from bird-friendly coffee? Would love to see in the chat what your guesses are of how many species benefit from bird-friendly coffee. This also gives me a moment to take a sip of tea. No guesses so far. You give me a number, a percent. Lori says 30. Good guess, good guess. Any other guesses coming in? Daniel says 100. Joan says 800 species. 50. We've got a great range here. I love it. So when we actually think about it, the result is about 1 in 10 bird species globally utilizes habitat on or near bird-friendly coffee farms. So it's a pretty remarkable number of birds. So this data here is from a study that we did on bird-friendly farms in Peru, and showing that within sun-grown coffee systems where there's no habitat that's retained, you can support about 61 bird species. So there's still birds that are present on that land, but when you compare it to some of the alternatives, certainly not as many as could be. So for partial shade, so that's farms that retain some habitat on their land, but doesn't quite meet the bird-friendly standard, you're jumping up to 79%. But if you look at the bird-friendly coffee standard and how many birds can be supported there, you're looking at 243 bird species, and that's just in Peru alone in this study site. So that's over 4 times more birds than can be found on sun-grown monocultures. So this is something that we're really excited about. And then as we think about our forest conservation standard, that allows us to focus and conserve unique species that wouldn't necessarily benefit from agroforestry, and increases that number even further to the birds that benefit from the bird-friendly standard. But it's not just birds that are benefiting from bird-friendly certified coffee. Bird-friendly farms are better for wildlife, they're more climate resilient, and they can help farmers earn more money. So we've had studies that have shown that habitat for amphibians and small mammals is much better, much healthier on bird-friendly certified systems. Bird-friendly crops are also more climate resilient. So what that means is, by retaining the trees and the native plants on the soil, that shores up the soil. So in the event of like extreme rain events, things like that, it's less likely that your crops are going to be washed up. The shade canopy also helps protect from extreme heat events. Having visited a bird-friendly coffee farm myself, I can attest to how much cooler it actually is under the shade and by the forest than it is when you're out in the sun. So that's protecting the crops, and it's better for the farmers that they have more resilient products there. They're less likely to have those sort of big ebbs and flows for what their yield is on any given year. The soil is also more fertile and has better moisture on and around bird-friendly farms. And the farms themselves are sequestering carbon, so they're an important asset in fighting climate change as they capture carbon from the atmosphere and draw it back down into the tree mass and into the soil. Bird-friendly farms are also helping farmers to earn more money. So farmers can not only leverage their bird-friendly certification to negotiate higher premiums for their bird-friendly certified coffee. So there's an incentive there, but they can also grow additional crops as part of that those trees that are present on their farm. So what they can do is grow things like avocado or lime, oranges, things like that, that they can then sell in addition to their coffee, providing almost a secondary or backup source of income if something were to happen with their coffee crop. And then in return, the producers also receive important ecosystem services from the birds that rely on their land. So birds, as we know, are excellent pollinators. They're really great at seed dispersal. I should say they don't pollinate coffee, but they pollinate lots of other things. Pollination, seed dispersal services from the birds on the land, and then insect and pest control. So rodent control are also really, really important. And when we think particularly about a really nasty bug that's going around in coffee, the coffee berry borer, it's a pretty significant threat to coffee production. There are these little bugs that live and feed and breed inside of the coffee cherry, and then their presence really impacts the quality of the coffee bean that's produced. These migratory species, the prairie warbler, the black-throated blue warbler, and the American redstart, in Jamaica, we found that these three species alone comprised about 50% of detections of predation on coffee berry borer in Jamaica. And they're species that are only present if shade trees are present. So these guys, they live on bird-friendly certified farms, and they provide an important service to farmers to keep that coffee berry borer in check. So hopefully that was got everyone on the call excited about bird-friendly certified coffee and what it's all about, what it means, the benefits to birds, the benefits to us as coffee drinkers and lovers. But despite all of those benefits, all these great things that we just talked about, the bird-friendly certification is still pretty niche. So you probably have gone out to your local grocery store, maybe you're looking for a bird-friendly coffee, looking for that logo, and you're not able to find it. And that's because while we have grown quite a bit over the years, the supply of bird-friendly coffee, so the coffee that's being produced, in country, still exceeds the demand. So we're working to close that gap right now, and trying to increase consumer awareness. Let folks know what it means for a product to be bird friendly. So oftentimes, if we do public talks, one of the first questions we get is, oh, so it's coffee you feed your birds, and we have to say, no, 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 you don't give it to the birds, you drink it yourself, it helps the birds. So trying to kind of dispel any questions folks have about about the certification, and then to increase availability through outreach and marketing. So this is something that's critically important to the health of our program and to the long-term conservation of the birds that live on bird-friendly certified farms, because if farmers don't have dedicated buyers for their coffee, then they might choose to leave the program. And that's not because they don't care about the birds or they don't care about the environment. It's because they have families to feed, they have livelihoods at stake, they have really tough decisions that they have to make at their personal levels to do what's best for themselves, for their families, for their communities. And in many cases, what that means is not only are they removing habitat from their land to grow coffee in higher yields in that sun-grown monoculture fashion, but it sometimes means that they're stopping growing coffee altogether. They're cutting out all of their trees and they're switching over to something like cattle ranching, which is a much less resource intensive method of farming. So when you think about all the work it takes to go in and individually handpick coffee cherries from a forest, from an agroforestry system, it can be a lot of work. When you compare it to, oh, we'll just let the cattle out and then let them grow, do their thing, come back in, harvest them, things like that. So it's something that we're kind of bumping up against and is really, really important. So one of the things that we love to kind of do and to ask of you all is to kind of help us join this movement. So it was great to hear and see in the chat that you all are already, many of you, very supportive of bird-friendly coffee, which is really fantastic. Thank you so much for your support, first and foremost. We appreciate all the coffee that you're buying and supporting. It sounds like it was from Guayab Cooperative in Huehuetenango, which is fantastic. So really great to kind of know that that's something you all are supporting in many cases. So not just making the switch in your own lives, but if you look at your maybe the places where you work or the people in your community, the areas in which coffee is sold or offered to folks, encouraging them to make the switch to a bird-friendly certified coffee as well. And then also recruiting new roasters. So one of the best ways that we can grow a program is just by making bird-friendly coffee more accessible to more people. And so a lot of that hinges upon getting more licensed roasters involved in our program. So for anybody who is out there, if you have a favorite, coffee shop, coffee roaster, talking to them and saying, hey, have you thought about making a switch to bird-friendly certified coffee? And if they're interested, you can connect them right over to us at birdfriendly@si.edu, and then we'll get them signed up within our program. So we want to make sure there's as much bird-friendly coffee as available within your community. And then, of course, sharing the story. So hopefully there's some, fun little facts and tidbits that you learned from the talk today that you can share with your community, with the folks in your network, because you all are the best ambassadors for your community that are kind of out there. So much better than myself coming out and trying to tell folks that this is important. People believe their peers. They want to support the things that their loved ones care about. And so if it's important to you, it can be important to your network as well. And so with that, I just want to close with just sort of a little story, little anecdote. If you can kind of picture yourself, maybe you're sitting on your back porch. It's spring. Let's fast forward through these last dull weeks of winter, and maybe you're on your back porch. You're watching your bird feeder. You've got a cup of your bird-friendly certified coffee in hands, and you start to see some of the migrants returning, some of the migratory birds returning to your backyard that you haven't seen in months. And maybe it's a Baltimore Oriole, maybe it's a yellow warbler, maybe it's a vireo. Pick your favorite migratory bird species. And the thing that I like to think about is that those birds that are returning to our bird feeders in just a few short weeks, they're coming from coffee farms. It's not necessarily saying it's, oh, this species benefit. It's that individual bird that's coming to your bird feeder in your backyard that's benefiting from the coffee that's in your cup if you choose bird-friendly coffee. So those birds, the reason why they're able to come back is because they've got that nice, healthy, safe overwintering habitat on coffee farms. And if we lose that, then those birds won't be coming back any longer. And that's a heartbreaking story. And so I like to think about, when we choose our coffee, when we choose and look for that bird-friendly label, we are, kind of vouching for the habitat. We were saying that this is something that's important to us. It's important to the birds that are visiting our backyards, and it's important to us as coffee drinkers and bird lovers. So with that, I just want to say thank you all for the time today. It was really great to have the opportunity to speak with you all. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Zach, I don't know if you want to moderate or if we just want to go through the list there, but happy to share any other info or knowledge about the bird friendly program.